Hello. In this video we're going to look at cancelling algebraic fractions. So hopefully using the correct cancelling process and also employing pulling out a common factor because that will help us simplify a lot easier as well. These are the 6 questions that the video will go through. Have a look, and if you want to skip to the ones that we're doing, we'll start in order, so 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay, so feel free to pause the video when you need to, see what you can do by yourself and then check right at the end. Okay, let's get started. So with this one, when everything is multiplied together, you can just separate the numbers and then the letters. So if we look at the 10 and the 15, what's the highest number that goes into 10 and 15? And we know that's 5. So 5 goes into 10 twice, and 5 goes into 15 thrice, or 3 times. Okay, then we look at the letters, the pronumerals. Now x squared, we recall that x squared is actually x times x. So when we've got x squared over x, what we've actually got is x times x divided by x, and so we can cancel those x's there. How I do that over here is I'll just cancel that and I'll get rid of that squared over there. Now you don't have to actually do these crosses, you could just do it in your head and say, yep, I know that that's 2. We've still got the x there, and then there's just the 3 downstairs. There's no x because that one disappeared. It was technically a 1. 3 times 1 is just 3. And that's it. That's how easy it is for cancelling fractions, but it has to be a multiply in between. So that brings us to this question here, and I know a lot of you are tempted to just say, oh well, x on x, that cancels, but you can't do that. That's illegal cancelling in mathematics. Okay, if you think about if we replaced x with, let's say 4, right, that would be 4 plus 6 over 4 plus 2. Now we know that that is 4 plus 6 is 10, 4 plus 2 is 6, and again, what number goes into both of those? 2, so that becomes 5 over 3. If you tried to cancel like we were doing before, like so, I don't know how you plan to do that. They either cancelled each other out and you're left with 6 over 2, which becomes 3, not equal to 5 over 3, or if you said 4 divided by 4 is 1, that still won't give you that answer. So just make sure you never cancel the top and the bottom when there's a plus there. Okay, if you can pull out a common factor, absolutely, go for your life. But for this one, well, that's just it. You cannot cancel anymore. That's done and dusted. It's as low as you can go. It's already in its simplified form. Okay, now we have a look at this one. We can see even numbers all over the shop, and we can see lots of x's. Now the best way to do this is just separate the top from the bottom. So we look at the top and we just ask ourselves, what is common to each of these terms? So look at the numbers first. What's the biggest number that goes into 10 and 4? And hopefully you know it's 2. Then you look at the letters. What's the biggest value of x that can go into both of them? Even though this is an x squared, that's the biggest one, but x squared doesn't go into x. So in this case, 2x is your highest common factor. And then we're going to pull that out. Now, depending on how you view things, you can either divide each term by 2x, or you can ask yourself, 2x times what gives me 10x? So I again start with the numbers. 2 times what gives me 10, so it has to be a 5. 2 5s are 10, and now 2x times 5, I've got my 10x. That's it. Don't put an x there, because if you put an x there, that's 2 5s are 10, and then x times x is x squared, and we don't want x squared, we just want x. So no extra x there. There's a plus here, so I'm going to put a plus here. 2 times what gives me the 4? 2 times 2, and as we just discussed previously, then we need to have the x there, because x times x gives me this x squared that we're after. Hopefully this is all coming back to you from year 9, and if it's not, you know, you're thinking, well, that makes sense. Now, downstairs, we've still got the denominator. We've still got our 10x there. So because there is a multiply in between there, okay, right, that's a multiply in between the 2x and the bracket, we are allowed to cancel now. So I can now say, well, that x divided by x is 1, so that just disappears. Anything divided by itself is 1. And I'm looking at the 2 and the 10, and that can be simplified to 1/5. So 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. So 1 times 5 plus 2x on the top line, I've just got 5 plus 2x. And really, I should have written that as 2x plus 5, but no one's going to mind. And downstairs, we've got that 5. And we will not, I repeat, we will not cancel those 5s. Why? Because there's an add there. So that's as low as we can go. How's that going? Let's have a look at the next one. Feel free to stop the video and look at the top, the numerator, pull out a common denominator there, look at the denominator, pull out a common factor there, and see how you go. Okay, so feel free, stop the video, you try, and then you can compare with what I'm about to do. So numerator, what's the biggest number that goes into 20 and 8? Now 2 does, but if 2 does, check if 4. Oh, well, yep, 4 goes into 20 and 4 goes into 8. What about 8? Well, 8 goes into 8, but 8 doesn't go into 20, so that means 4 is my highest common factor. And again, we've got our a and a squared, so 4a is going to be my highest common factor. I put my bracket there, and I'm asking myself, 4a times what gives me 20a? So 4 times what gives me 20? That's got to be 5. I've already got the a there, so I'm not going to put another one inside the bracket. This time we've got a minus, and I'm asking myself, 4 times what gives me 8? So that's going to be 4 2s are 8. I can't leave it like that, because at this point 4a times 2 gives me 8a, and I want a squared. So clearly I must put an a there, because a times a is a squared. Okay, that's the top done. Now let's do the denominator. Again, if you think you want to have a go at this without looking, pause the video and please see how you can go yourself. Okay, so again, look at the numbers first. Biggest number that goes into 15 and 6, well, 15 is not even, so I'm going my 3s. Yes, 3 goes into both. Does 6? No. So 3 is the highest one, and wouldn't you know it, there's an a that goes into both of them as well. So 3a times what gives me, so 3 times what gives me 15, well, that's 5, and again, I've already got my a. There's a minus here, so I will pop a minus here. And 3 times what gives me 6. Well, 3 times 2 gives me 6, and I want a squared, so I need an a times another a. Okay, we look now and we go, well, there's stuff that we can cancel. Once again, because there's a times here, right, I can do something really bold. This whole factor 5, this is a times 5 take 2a and times 5 take 2a. In effect, it's like if I had 4a times b over 4a times b, I could cancel those b's because they're the same. B divided by b is 1. Well, guess what? 5 take 2a divided by 5 take 2a, that is also 1. So that cancels. And now I'm left with 4a divided by 3a. So the a's can cancel, and that just leaves me with 4 over 3. Done. Onward and upward. Okay, again, please feel free, stop the video. You see if you can do these by yourself. Mistakes are fine. Okay, do the top again. Numerator first. Very clearly 4 goes into both of these, but no common letter, so we just pull out the 4. 4 times what gives me 4x? It's just x. 4 times what gives me 8y, so that's got to be minus 2. Now downstairs, alas, 4 doesn't go into both, but how about 2? So I pull out 2, and 2 times 2 gives me the 4 that I want here, and I've got to have the y. Take, and 2 times x gives me 2x. And before we sort of go, yeah, okay, the 4 and the 2 can be divided by each other and they can cancel out, I want you to look at these factors here, and do you notice anything? Can you see that this is a 1x? Technically, there's a minus 1 in front of here, and this is a 2, and it's a minus 2 in front of there. So they're sort of almost the same, but one's just got this extra negative there. So that tells you, instead of pulling out the positives, could you think about pulling out a minus? Okay, and you can do that to either the top or you can do it to the bottom. It doesn't really matter. You'll end up with the same answer. Okay, I'm going to go with the top. So even though I've written this down here, I'm going to go, yeah, okay, I'm sort of going to ignore that, put it to the side, and I'm going to go back to my original, and instead of pulling out positive 4, I'm going to pull out negative 4. And you think, why on earth is she doing that? But you'll see in a minute. Now, this is where we have to remember that a negative times a negative gives you a positive. So minus 4 times minus x, oops, don't put that there. All right, negative times a negative, negative times a negative gives me a positive. So that in effect, minus 4 times minus x does indeed give me positive 4x. Now, a negative times a positive gives me a minus. Different signs, negative, same signs, positive. So that means it has to be plus 2y down there. You're thinking, not totally convinced about this, but trust me. Now downstairs, we're not going to pull out the negative. We're just going to leave it like we did before. So keeping the 2 there, and you can just copy what we had, 2y, take x. Now, can you see minus x plus 2y? If I just put the 2y at the front, that's 2y, and take x. Now that is exactly the same as that bottom bit. Okay, so in effect, these two are now the same. So they can cancel. I'll just write that again. Minus x plus 2y. So take the positive and pop that first. That's the same as minus x. Or if you wanted to, you could look at the denominator saying that was 2y take x. If you put the minus x first, right, the sign that's in front always stays with that variable. So here, 2y, there's nothing in front of it, but technically it's a positive. So that becomes plus 2y. So they're the same, okay? So they cancel, and I'm left with minus 4 over 2. Right, I'm left, I'll write that. Left with minus 4 over 2, but please don't ever leave it like that, because you can clearly cancel that to be minus 2. So when you pull out your common factor, just have a look at what's inside the bracket, and if you could times everything through by a minus, well then you can pull that negative out. So now let's have a go at the last question. No numbers this time, it's just all letters. So we're going to look, and we see we've got an A in both. One's an A squared, one's an A, so we're just going to pull out A. And what about the B? We've got a B cubed and a B squared, so that means the highest B would be a B squared. Okay, I'm going to close our bracket, and I hope you remember that B cubed is B times B times B, and B times B, so it's the same as B squared times B. Yeah, so A times what gives me A squared? Well, we know that, we've done that a few times. A times A is A squared. And now b squared times b gives me the b cubed. Always just double check by expanding to ensure that you've got the right thing at the start. So we're now going to say minus a times, don't have to do anything there, and b squared, b squared. Now you might think, oh, that's just it. You can't leave it as blank and you can't put like a 0 there, because then you will only get this one term when you expand. So a b squared times what gives you ab squared? You must put a 1. Right? It's got to be the 1 there. All over downstairs, what's your common factor there, highest common factor? Yep, it's a. So if I pull out the a times what gives me a? Well, it's a times 1 minus ab. Now, once again, notice, right, look at your brackets here and you can see that 1 is in effect the negative of the other. So you can disregard what you've done if you so desire, or you should. And you can just pull out, or you can just say, well, I now know if I cancel those, right, that's because there's a minus out the front, or you could use your eraser, right? Instead of pulling out a, you can pull out minus a. Yes, I went for the denominator this time instead of the numerator just to mix it up, to show you that it doesn't matter which one you do. So minus a times, again, minus a, because a negative times a negative gives you the positive a that you want. And then negative times positive gives you this minus. And that will be AB. And I have made a mistake, I hope you realized, because a times a would give me a squared, so that has to be 1. And once again, you can see, look at this, minus 1, plus AB, that's a plus AB there. So these are the same, they cancel out. Okay, I've got a positive up here, a positive divided by a negative gives me a minus, and the a's will cancel, so I've got minus b squared. So you need to go through a little bit of practice, maybe just go back up over here and see if you can do these again without looking at the answers, and see if you get the same thing, and have a go at the questions that we've set you for classwork and homework. Good luck, and feel free to ask any questions that you might have.